9th and 10th, we gave Pakistan merry hell.
We will not leave the terrorists.
Pakistan army, you said, is irrational.
Their nexus with terrorism has been exposed. If they do act like Pahalgam, this will be the response. And it will be more.
Asim Munir, instead of being in disgrace, promotes himself to Field Marshal. Shameless country. And there are shameless people with no honor.
The missions that we flew on 9th night and 10th morning was a classic mission, the way you operate in a full-fledged conflict.
How extensive has Pakistan been hit? 11 air bases, multiple radar stations.
They went running to US and they wanted a face-saving way to exit.
India was not at war and yet you took out Sargodha.
Sargodha is one of the most defended targets. It's deep inside.
We should have hit them for a couple of more days. When he was already down on his knees, they don't care. I mean, they're a country without honor.
We not hit them more, we've hit them very, very high in terms of proportionate response to whatever they did militarily.
Supping with the devil, openly, attending funerals of terrorists and then having lunch at White House.
People don't have food to eat, but they buy all sorts of weapons. Satellite imagery, intelligence, you can be sure that they would have shared.
India's naval attaché in Indonesia at a seminar recently, when he spoke of political constraints and which were the reason for losses of aircraft. Hello and welcome to an India Today special podcast, Chakravyuh. I'm Gaurav Sawant. The Indian Air Force is now caught in the Chakravyuh of politics. Of course, air power being a weapon of choice is our subject of discussion today, especially at a time when air power was used extensively in Operation Sindoor by India, by Israel as part of its Operation Rising Lion, and by the United States of America as part of Operation Midnight Hammer to target Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. The fact remains, is air power now the weapon of choice to send across not just tactical but strategic messaging? Joining me on the Chakravyuh podcast is Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria, former Chief of Air Staff. Sir, welcome on Chakravyuh podcast.
Thank you.
You have over 4,300 hours of flying on 43 different types of aircraft, fighter jets, transport and helicopters. And that's spectacular, 4,300 plus hours of flying on 43 aircraft. What do you make of air power being employed by India as a weapon of choice, first Balakot and now Operation Sindoor?
Air power for such operations is absolutely the weapon of choice for obvious reasons, because both Balakot and Sindoor started with ability to hit terror targets. And when you want to hit deep inside, mind you, if you are going to hit closer to LAC, there are other options which were also excised. But when you want to hit deep inside, starting Balakot, air power was the only answer, and it was done so effectively. Operation Sindoor, the two most important targets which were very deep, Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, those were really targets that nobody could think that they would be attacked. When they were attacked, clearly air power is the weapon of choice. For something closer by, loitering munition would work, and that option was also exercised.
So are we to think the future of warfare, so if you look at Operation Sindoor, Operation Rising Lion and Midnight Hammer, standoff weapons, fighter jets, of course, for Midnight Hammer, America sent in its fighter jets. Rising Lion, Israel also sent in its fighter jets because they'd been able to achieve suppression of enemy air defenses completely, and their fighter jets flew into enemy territory. Is that going to be the future, either standoff weapons or air power, and not employing ground troops?
No, let's look at it that way. That air power, the standoff weapons, be it air to ground, be it huge range weapons, air to air, these kind of capabilities would be center stage in any future conflict, in any such combat scenarios, conflict scenarios, would be center stage. Absolutely, primarily the weapons of choice. But we should not see it in isolation that, okay, it means that you can, there's no importance of the ground forces or the naval forces. They're all now integrated. And as an integrated force, there are all elements of, super specialization in each of the services. And that itself has its own, combinations that are brought to bear in any such conflict. Air power is also in some sense, of course, in Navy it is extended. It's over. Aircraft carriers carry a fair amount of air power. Similarly, Army now going into more drones, etc., loitering munitions, some of that is also extending into air power assets. So we should see it as a combination. But clearly, standoff weapons, precision weapons, and air power would be center stage in any future conflict. That has to be clearly understood, and it is something that is being built into our the way we are going to fight wars.
When Israeli Air Force went into Iran, there was suppression of enemy air defenses and very effective suppression of enemy air defenses. Their radars were taken down, their missiles were taken down, and then the fighter jets went in. Should we have done the same when we struck, in 2019 Balakot, or in 2025 Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, or the 9 terrorist training camps and launch pads? I'm asking you this in context of, India's naval attaché in Indonesia at a seminar recently, when he spoke of political constraints not giving them either clearance or the words to that effect, and which were the reason for losses of aircraft.
No, this must be clearly understood. Firstly, as far as political leadership direction is concerned, if you're talking of Operation Sindoor, the operational freedom was given straight away, and it was well before Operation Sindoor to the services. So I think this was well covered in the news, and so there's clear operational freedom. But you must understand, when you hit terrorist targets, okay, in that strike you do not target or you do not plan to hit military targets. And the comparison that you were making with Iran and what Israel did there, if your question is whether we should have taken out some of the AD assets before we hit the terrorist targets in Operation Sindoor, answer is no. Because
answer is no?
No, yes. Because the target, our plan was to hit terrorist targets alone. Okay. It's very clearly, so your operational mission planning, etc., needs to cater for this. So this is a constraint or a restraint that the service exercises, that yes, I will hit only terrorist target without taking out this. It is not a war situation. You have decided to hit the terrorist target, therefore you make a combination how you will go about it. And in that, in a normal war conflict situation, you do all this suppression of enemy air defense and thereafter take. Here you don't do, because your clear aim is to hit the terrorist targets alone.
So Israel is at war with Iran. That is why Israel was able to take out their enemy air defenses, suppression or destruction.
That is a classic way of conducting air operations. But here the situation is different, and it will always be so when you are hitting terrorist target. Therefore, this has to be understood in this manner. Okay. Thereafter, when this was escalated, when Pakistan started hitting sending drones and started hitting our military targets and civilian targets
and targeting our
aircraft. Thereafter, what we did was like we would have done for operation. Initially, we took out some radars. But we did it in a very calibrated way. On the first day, it's just some radars. You could have taken much more. But when they next night again attacked some more with the loitering munitions and tried to hit our bases, etc., some more command centers and radars were taken out, which were of greater importance and strategically more important. And on the 9th night and 10th morning, before that, when they started hitting our bases, and that is when we hit those 11 targets, was a proper operation done. Before that, it was very, very calibrated response from our side. So this was not like a build-up to war, but we still suppressed their air defense adequately, and on 9th, 10th we took out. Okay. And if you are saying that Pakistan was very capable, their air defenses we could not sort out on the first day, on the 7th. What happened on the 9th, 10th? They were nowhere. We were able to suppress, and we were able to achieve all targets without any losses on our side, and all the targets were hit.
So when CDS General Anil Chauhan was speaking overseas, he too seemed to indicate that there were some tactical issues initially. Those lessons were learnt, and then, as you mentioned, 9th and 10th, we gave Pakistan merry hell. That point taken. So, what are these tactical things that the Air Force sorted out in your appreciation, sir?
No, I won't like to go into it because I don't know exactly what the situation is, what happened, the rationale behind what he just mentioned, and it is best to for them to sort of cover it subsequently as and when they want to cover, or for the Air Force to cover. But in general terms, I must explain some things that even on 7th, when we hit terrorist targets,
Right.
we must understand the rules of engagement. So we don't do classic suppression of air defense, hitting their radars or some military target before we hit terrorists. But when we are hitting terrorists, or immediately after that, or in the process of that, should you get fired upon, you thereafter, as per rules of engagement, you are at liberty to fire back. Mm-hmm. In air battle, this happens very, very fast. It's moving in seconds, but it must be understood. So those are the kind of rules of engagement which come into play. The moment we have hit terrorist targets and come back, if any military action gets taken by their side, we are absolutely free to respond. So we must understand the context.
These are the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
Does Pakistan follow rules of engagement?
No, I'll cover to the... No, they don't, obviously. If they were so rational, we won't have these situations, no? Mm-hmm. They will not support this terrorist organization so blatantly. And when we hit terrorist target, they won't start responding militarily and they won't be attending the funerals of the terrorists slain. So they're clearly irrational. And being a nuclear country, the way they start, talking about use of nuclear weapons, absolutely irrational. Okay, so that's why we land up in this situation. On the issue of tactical mistake that you mentioned, the context that we were in, all I can see is that this is a fast-moving situation. Pakistan had put their complete defenses on alert. They knew, our Prime Minister had very clearly said, we will not leave the terrorists. Wherever they are, we will go after them. And whoever is supporting them and whoever is, has ordered this Pahalgam incident. So very clearly they were expecting, their complete defenses were up. Okay, so while their complete defenses are up, when the first mission gets undertaken, it is with some constraints and restraints. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you want to hit only the terrorist targets, so you exercise a lot of constraint in your planning and in your execution. A lot of this gets factored in. You asked me what could have gone wrong or what could have led to this kind of thing, and because of which CDS said something. All I can think of is that when new weapons come into the play. For example, PL-15 of China was absolutely new.
The air missile,
while we
BVR.
had information of that, the information was the initial version that they gave was 150 kilometer range or so. But clearly, they had the latest version, which probably got supplied before Operation Sindoor, which was 200 kilometers class. So please don't take as if I have some internal knowledge and what happened, but these are the things that get factored in. Just imagine a difference between 150 and 200 plus 250 kilometer class. Second, issues like if there's a surface-to-air missiles, the latest ones that they've taken from China, where are they located? So whenever you do such missions in a fast-moving scenario where deployments are taking place, you one of your targets is to pick up everything, where what is located, and therefore plot it and keep your assets, airborne assets out of it, or take action whenever you get fired upon.
What's the biggest lesson?
But you don't know all.
Sir?
So there could be a surface-to-air missile which has moved to a place where you have got into its domain. So these are the kind of things that affect initially. The moment it gets known, the battle, footprint becomes very clear once you fire first day. Thereafter, you take other actions to see that you cater for all that. This is how it progresses. So I'm just generally guessing what could have gone and how things would have gone.
But when we look at future of combat now and future combat, next time we are hitting, even if we are hitting terror bases, and ideally now that it's clear there's no difference between a Hafiz Saeed and a Hafiz Asim Munir, are we to understand that there will be no distinction in future? What is your appreciation?
Now there is a new normal, as Prime Minister has defined, that an act of terror will be an act of war. This is absolutely, you see previously he said zero tolerance to terror. So you do something, we will respond. Balakot happened, this, they did Pahalgam, we did this, Operation Sindoor. That was zero tolerance. Now it is equated with an act of war. And now if you ask me, if a terrorist incident was to take place, which is of serious consequence, and we want to, and it has been identified as having emanated from Pakistan, and we want to respond. When we respond this time to hit on the terrorist targets, we are at liberty to start taking out any military target which comes in the way or which is at that time
aiding and abetting,
relevant to that strike. Whether we do it is another reason, another discussion. It's another, a lot of factors would go into it. But that is the implication of act of war. Other issue is it has straight away put Pakistani army, ISI, that they are in league with terrorists. So agencies which support terrorists can come under the crosshair. So that is the difference.
The implication is that Pakistan army, you said, is irrational. It's not an army that is professional, and it's an army that attacked India when India attacked terrorists. India was responding to that Pahalgam terror attack, and Pakistan army attacked our military installations. So there is no difference between their army and their terrorists. And when you hit back, you will make sure when Indian Air Force or when India hits back, there is no distinction between Pakistan army and Pakistan terrorists. Is that amply clear? It's been made clear to Pakistan.
Yeah, it's been made clear that they've been basically exposed. Their nexus with terrorism has been exposed very clearly. And we've been saying this all along. For all the previous acts, we've been putting dossiers, we've been putting all the proofs. And the world would look at it and continue to analyze.
Dossier diplomacy. Now no longer giving any dossiers.
Now they can make the dossier and keep sending, this is what India attacked us and did, and the world can keep looking at their dossiers now. But we will do what we have to do. If they do act like Pahalgam, this will be the response. And it will be more.
What is your assessment now that we're talking about it? And before I come to air power, the bigger question of air power, what is your assessment of Pakistani training, tactics, weapons and systems? 3 days of Operation Sindoor. What is your assessment? 80% we are told of their equipment is Chinese. General Shukla was on Chakravyuh, former Army Commander R.K.S. His appreciation is 90% of all Pakistani equipment is Chinese. So what is your assessment? So PL-15s apparently seem to have done well. Our impression was 150 kilometers, but they had 200 kilometer plus range ones.
Yeah, I'll answer in 2-3 ways. Firstly, if you see the overall Pakistani Defense Forces, 80-90% is going towards Chinese. If you see Pakistan Air Force, there is a lot of American equipment, particularly American, some Western equipment still there. A lot of F-16 and a lot of which have been upgraded, and weapons related to that. MRAM was their strong air-to-air weapon previously. You remember Balakot?
Balakot.
Now they have gone in for, because they were not getting anything better from West, they have gone in for Chinese aircraft. So J-10s, JF-17s, how PL-15 came in such a hurry, how the best of the PL-15 is made available to them, which I don't think China is, or their policy-wise, they were wanting to export to anybody. So the China-Pak collusion is in the open. We always knew it. It's not that it's come as a surprise. We always had thought of factoring this. But
it's not restricted just to PL-15s. Apparently, satellite imagery.
Yeah, and PL-15s, all PL-15s didn't work. But the higher range does give it a certain unique capability. But many PL-15s, because they have fired at ranges and because our pilots have taken their necessary actions and evaded it, those have flown, and after the kinetic energy goes, they've been found on ground. There have been many, you are aware, which have been discovered. Correct. So there are many PL-15s which didn't find the target at all, obviously. If Pakistan always has prided itself with their Air Force being absolute top class.
Fizaya.
No, there's no way to penetrate it. There's no way to, they're their best option available. So they prided on their defense capability, and they are centered around their air defense, not so much on the attack side. All that has been sorted out on 9th and 10th. Okay, the missions that we flew on 9th night and 10th morning was a classic mission, the way you operate in a full-fledged conflict. Okay, their air defense was hit, the targets that we wanted were hit, all successful, all precision, okay. And no losses on our side. Their Air Force was nowhere in sight in terms of effectively able to defend.
Why wasn't the Air Force there on the 9th and the 10th? What's your appreciation?
Yeah, because the way we had structured our entire S-400 plus MRSAM combination and along with our AD aircraft, they were unable to get anywhere close. And mind you, the fact that none of our airfields or any target of military importance was successfully engaged with them is because of this. They have air-to-ground, 100 kilometers plus weapons. Large versions, many of those cruise missiles, they fired those air-to-ground precision weapons. They fired ballistic missiles. They were all tackled by our air defense system. So one, they were never allowed to get close enough to fire a huge number of weapons. Whatever they fired were tackled. Okay, this is important to understand. So while our air defense tackled their entire offensive, they were unable to resist any of the attacks that we did on 10th morning. So that is the result where we are today.
So they lost their nerve after they lost two Saab airborne early warning command and control systems, one on ground and one in the air. Am I right?
My understanding is in the air was not a Saab, it may be a Elint aircraft.
Okay.
But on the ground was Saab. So I would say one that way, but there are various analysis on this.
Okay.
And one C-130 and there are...
The C-130 was lost in Noor Khan on ground.
Yeah. And three high-tech aircraft in the air. That means F-16, J-17 class.
Correct.
Or J-10 class and 4 on the ground. So about 7 fighters and 3 more these assets, multi-role assets. So these are very high losses. So we don't talk about it. These are very high losses.
These are high losses for Pakistan Air Force. So it lost 7 fighter jets.
Having said all this, we must remember never to underestimate the enemy.
No, absolutely.
They have a unique capability of getting the latest. Okay, they've been working after Balakot, and today they have taken the best of Chinese as far as air-to-air missile is concerned. They have taken the best of surface-to-air missiles from China. They've taken a huge lot of radar, jamming equipment, networks. Okay.
Did they work? Look, PL-15s may have worked, but what about the others?
PL-15s also, some may have worked, some majority haven't. But that is because of the ranges that we forced them to fire at.
HQ-9s and HQ-16s, you were able to take them out.
Wherever it mattered.
Chunian, Pasroor, Bholari and Malir cantonment.
Wherever it mattered, we took them out. Where it didn't matter, we didn't. We just stayed out. We are not taken out all. In a full conflict situation, we would have taken out much more.
So why didn't you take out more?
No, it was not required. So we were calibrating our response all along. It was not a war situation. It was after hit on terrorists, we were responding in proportionate response to them. So,
but I want to understand this. Historically and civilizationally also. If I could take you back to Jayadratha Vad in the Mahabharata. When Abhimanyu was killed in Chakravyuh and Jayadratha was on the first entrance of the Chakravyuh, Arjun said, I will kill Jayadratha by sundown or I will kill myself. Duryodhan, the way he treated Panchali or Draupadi, when he said, Jangha par baitho, so Bhim said, Main Jangha tod dunga, which was against rules of law. And why do we tie ourselves in all these sharts? Why are we civilizationally like this? Why do we even care that we will not take out his enemy air defenses? Take out his enemy air defenses. He's a terrorist country. Kill him.
It doesn't work like that.
Abhimanyu, Arjun बोल रहा है जी मैं रात में मर जाऊंगा. Krishna ji नहीं थे, अगर नहीं होते, तो Arjun would have had to kill himself.
Yeah, if it doesn't work like that when you're responding to terrorist state. If it was that you were declaring to go to war, it would work like that.
But does Pakistan declare war? Pakistan does what it wants to do. It kills our people. It targets our military installations.
If Pakistan had done more than this, they would have... See, we've responded proportionately, but every time in a multiple of theirs. So if they were sending drones and loitering munition, we sent much more. We attacked their radars close to the border.
But we are responding.
We are responding. Because this is a situation when we want to hit terrorists. We said we are, our de-escalation was built in and we declared it. We said we don't want to hit your military, we have hit terrorists. Now, when they took a military response, we responded. Now, clearly, you have to look at the larger picture.
How bad was our hit? I mean, how extensive has Pakistan been hit? As you know, if you were the Pakistan Army chief, I would not wish that to any of my friends, but if you were, how would you assess his losses of 11 air bases, multiple radar stations?
It's a huge loss.
What would be assessment?
It is absolutely, in this situation, this is a limited conflict situation, okay? It's a huge loss. And that is why they went running to US and they wanted a face-saving way to exit. Okay, and that's why all this drama later on that took place from their side. Okay, so it is
it's
huge
a major loss for him.
Absolutely a major loss.
More than just loss of face.
Absolutely,
loss of
major loss. We have all the pictures. We have shown
Balakot,
everything.
You had no pictures, so he said only crows and trees were killed.
Yeah. So, but we knew what we had done, and you see now when a precision strike happens, you see a similar thing: small hole on top, inside everything destroyed. That's how precision strikes happen. Okay, so that 9th and 10th, what the way he has been hit and the kind of targets that were hit, and with the precision, and with their entire defense, left standing.
Their system collapsed. Pakistan's air defense collapsed.
For that duration, absolutely. But they could not prevent any of this.
So what did you do? You jammed them or you destroyed them?
It was everything. It would be a combination of everything. Combination of jamming, combination of taking out where it is relevant, and combination of precision and standoff.
And these were not just the Chinese systems. I believe Malir Cantonment has American radars also.
Of course. Some of the radars were taken out the previous night.
They were taken out the previous night.
Yeah.
And Malir
so
Cantonment is Karachi.
Taken out. They were, command and control centers that were taken out
that
effectively.
That was Noor Khan.
Yeah, and it's not easy. These are all, concrete and reinforced steel. So it's
so that command and control is a nuclear command and control system.
It's a command and control system. I have seen reports that it has strategic elements within the same. It could be same otherwise. We'll leave it at that.
So Noor Khan,
it's one of the most important command and control centers.
And that has been taken out.
Yes.
In your appreciation, how long will it take him to rebuild it?
It really depends, but if they put all their efforts behind it, still it would take at least a year and a half, 2 years. Just going by the requirements of the works itself and to come up to the same stature. What has been destroyed with these kind of centers.
Sargodha, every time whatever I've read about 1965 war and 71 war has always been in war our favorite target. Now, India was not at war and yet you took out Sargodha.
Yeah, that was, again, it is straight away messaging we will reach anywhere that we want. And Sargodha is one of the most defended targets. It's deep inside, so many of the layered defenses as such come into operation. In spite of that, we got at Sargodha what we wanted. So it was beautifully planned, right across various geographical depths and the kind of targets chosen. It was very strong messaging and also very strong, impact that this is where you stop.
And he stopped.
Of course. If you had continued, the repercussions would have been huge.
Tell me something. There are many who say that just because he sought a ceasefire, India agreed immediately. There are many analysts who say that we should have hit them for a couple of more days. When he was already down on his knees, again, the Prithviraj Chauhan syndrome. And I want to go back to history. Muhammad Ghori had been defeated. Either Muhammad Ghori should have been killed, there wouldn't have been the second battle, and India's history may have been different.
Yeah,
even this time, when he was down, decimate him.
No, we shouldn't get confused of comparing war situations with a situation of hitting terrorist bases. This wasn't a war.
No, then you were hitting his.
You were
hitting his air bases.
No, it still wasn't full-fledged war. He has taken some military action. We are still responding. We didn't move our ground forces. It is not full-fledged war. This must be understood. And what was the starting, what did the government say? So objectives were very clear and you go by those. And overall, if you see, everything was achieved wonderfully well, exceptionally well.
What were the objectives?
No, objective was to hit the terrorist targets.
Those
So
9
expose the
terror,
military.
Murid ke, Bahawalpur.
Absolutely. Those were Murid ke Bahawalpur. For decades we have had the details, and we never ventured to hit.
That is true.
That has been hit. Could anybody believe?
Did you think we could have hit Murid ke and Bahawalpur, when it was war game?
No, it was
initially?
always a question, man. When will we hit Murid ke and Bahawalpur? Okay, but the fact is that we did hit. Even in Pakistan, I'm telling you, they would not have imagined that we will hit it.
That is true.
They could have thought of it, yes, possible target. They would not have imagined.
They would have
And
thought
that's why
POJK, maximum.
they were caught residing there still. That's how many of the terrorists were still there. That's why that very high level of funerals and what you saw, and the army joining in at the leadership level. It's amazing. And look at the way we exposed them to the world. Look at the way Pakistan army, the Pakistan, how they support the terrorism has been exposed to the world.
But
you may
they
say
don't
anything.
care. I mean, they're a country without honor.
No.
I mean, their army chief was still, imagine their army is supping with the devil, openly, attending funerals of terrorists, and then having lunch at White House. So that country lacks honor.
And
the world, in a way, is dealing with them.
That lunch at White House will obviously have some unstated aims behind, I'm sure. What happened the next day when American forces were attacking Iran. So everything has some reason and logic.
Is that the reason why America panicked?
What we did, what we wanted, what objective were fully achieved. And I would say it was achieved better than probably was initially thought or planned. Because when we stopped it, it was stopped with a big hit, with a big rap on the knuckles, that this is what you get. Okay. Also, we exposed this sense of that they can't be defeated. Their air defense is fantastic, and their overall what they've done with Chinese help and all, it's impenetrable. So 9th and 10th we proved it. Who's going around running to get quickly more aircraft, more these things? So immediately they're running for stealth aircraft. They are running back to China for this. So very clearly you can see the panic in their actions. Okay, we are making our own arrangements. We are making our own plans. For sure, we'll need to do a lot of thinking for the future, because this changes the situation in our region, and we'll need to be prepared. But we are doing about it in a calm and controlled and in a manner which is more indigenous, more we'll do it ourselves kind of attitude. They are going around already begging for money and for weapons.
And yet bragging. I mean, you and I understand Pakistan lost. Anybody who reads about matters military understands Pakistan lost, for the simple reason 9 of their terror camps, including Muridke and Bahawalpur, were hit. And I have been covering counter-terror operations, since the Kargil war. And I know hitting Muridke and Bahawalpur was unheard of. Nobody had the guts to order that hit. And the fact that Muridke and Bahawalpur have been hit is huge. And then hitting 11 air bases, huge. And yet Asim Munir, instead of being in disgrace, promotes himself to Field Marshal and has lunch at White House. And, I think Balakot was also huge. I was there in Srinagar that time, and I was interacting very extensively with all of you also. What I understand was the fact that you could hit him in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was massive. But then the Pakistani narrative was, Keval kauwe mare, only crows were killed and trees were damaged. How can they get away? Why do we let them get away with absolute lies? I mean, I know they're a shameless country and there are shameless people with no honor. But why do we let them get away with it?
I don't think we let them get away. The world, of course, was letting them get away with a lot of narratives and false support for their own reasons, at times known, at times out of sheer incompetence. But even that, after Operation Sindoor, has changed. Now the world sees them in a different light. You just watch what happens in the future. Okay, they have been exposed thoroughly. And don't go by these conflicting noises at times which happen here and there, which is supporting almost their narrative, because that is, it's not important.
Are they better at information warfare than the Indian system?
No, there would be anybody who gets defeated like this or normally plays on the information war much more.
No, but both China and Pakistan, I mean, information warfare, why are they ahead of India? Even though, I mean, I thought what happened in Galwan was good work by India to stall them. India, being in a position to put 50,000 troops there, quickly moving men and material all over LAC, absolutely astounding operations, brilliant operations. And yet the narrative is controlled by them.
See, narrative, I've heard this many times on Operation Sindoor that, they handled the narrative better. When you have pictures of the strike and targets destroyed, satellite pictures, before, after, where is the issue of narratives to decide who did better? So 9th and 10th just explains everything. Before that, on 7th, all the pictures of every single target stuck.
True.
And of course, Murid Khan Bahawalpur, the videos coming out of Pakistan were more explicit than we had from the satellites. So the damage is there to see, the results are there to see. So all are damage on the aircraft very clearly. The hangar, you can see the aircraft inside. The aircraft on the tarmac, all other shelters that were attacked. So very clearly, narrative has no place to decide on who won when you have such clear proof. However, the kind of information war or the kind of narratives that they push after even having lost is huge. That effort is huge. Their entire ISPR machinery and the entire media control in Pakistan works primarily on this. And they want to, play it to their own public.
The fact that 7 Pakistani fighter jets and early warning system and that Saab Gripen AWNC aircraft were lost should have been told officially by Government of India after battle damage assessment was done.
Yeah, I think Air Force could have done that or told. But, Operation Sindoor hasn't finished. So at times, when an operation is on, always there are, the services exercise restraint on what information they want to give out, own and what they have hit. I'm sure they would have access to even much more imagery and analysis than it's in the public domain.
I believe the Pakistanis are saying we've hit them in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which somewhere in Peshawar, in Baluchistan, which we are not saying.
Which we are not saying, yes. Yeah. So even I don't know the details of that. I have seen that report. Yeah. So obviously the Air Force would have much more information, which they might not want to share now. Would they decide to share it any time or share later? It depends on them, depends on circumstances. So let's leave it at that.
There's another thing.
Yeah, but what is in the open domain, let me tell you, is there any doubt, even an iota of doubt, that what has been achieved and how well it has been conducted? So there is enough in the open domain, I think.
No, I am thrilled to bits. I've been anchoring. You were there as my guest on the show. I've been anchoring throughout when those 9 terror camps were targeted. And for someone who's covered Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror for decades, I covered Operation Parakram, the parliament attack, and in midst of all of that, I covered Kaluchak. And Kaluchak, for the benefit of some of our viewers, when the armies were deployed as part of Operation Parakram in 2002, Pakistani terrorists wearing military uniforms entered a military garrison in Jammu, in Kaluchak, close to Jammu, and they killed army families, they killed army soldiers, they killed little army children. And I've covered that. And after that, India did not attack Pakistan. I covered 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, and I saw 166 people being massacred in Mumbai over 5 days, and those bodies which were being brought into hospital and the works, and India did not hit back. So after that, when you see Bahawalpur and Muridke being hit, and after that, when you see 11 military stations in Pakistan being hit and air bases, I am thrilled to bits that finally action is being taken. I wanted more. Matlab, when I was covering the Kargil war, we'd interviewed Vikram Batra, and that famous line of his, "Ye dil mange more." This is dil mange more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why didn't you do it? Why didn't the Air Force hit more?
Now?
No.
So firstly, you see, this time has changed. This shows what this government has done. Now we will not accept. So now we will not prepare dossiers, we will get them. Okay, so this is
For example, if you'd hit
happy.
Abpara,
Why did we not hit them more? We've hit them very, very high in terms of proportionate response to whatever they did militarily. They did not achieve any of the targets. Believe me, not a single target, whatever weapons they deployed, hit. And they were going very, very strongly for our S-400s and our air bases to create some kind of damage and some military targets. And of course, they tried foolishly on the civilian targets and some of our religious places too. But they could not succeed. So whether we could have done more, if they had not stopped, we would have done more. And our Navy was already poised. Next night would have been different. So it is the level and the strong significance of 10th morning strike is what hit them hard, and they got to their senses.
Was there a lot of pressure? What I'm trying to understand, and in the light of what Israel and America did to Iran, is that why America was very keen that the air bases remain intact? Because America wanted to use those Pakistani air bases, especially Noor Khan and Jacobabad, which we destroyed. Because Americans wanted to use either Pakistani airspace or air bases to target Iran from this side?
I don't know about that, but for sure, since he was there just before the Iran strike, and that time we didn't know, although there was this thinking that they might come in against Iran. I think for sure they were told to, Pakistani army chief was told to stay off any talk of or any thought of being the leaders in the Islamic world with nuclear capability. And next day they attacked. I'm sure it was a very clear message to him that you just lay off and stay on the sides. And they always claimed to be, the leaders in the Islamic world and being the only nuclear power. And look what happened. When some Iranian general made some statement also, they quickly officially denied it. No, we are not, we haven't said this, that we will, if Iran gets struck by nuclear attack, we will come in and all that. See how fast they were. So they've been exposed even to the Islamic world. Okay. I think overall, it will still, even that will go against them in the long run.
When you look at
I would think that would be the
that was the dressing down. So
yeah.
your impression is that Asim Munir was given a dressing down in the United States of America at White House,
or a warning to stay off,
or a warning
to stay off and what's going to happen, to keep their eyes closed. And you see their reaction. Would you have imagined this reaction when Iran is getting attacked from Pakistan? I think.
Would America require Pakistani air bases in future also?
May not be. May not be. I think that is old school thought. I don't think so.
Because if they have the aircraft carrier battle groups,
they have many options.
They
They have many options. So I won't think so.
But they required. I mean, they had the aircraft carrier battle groups even when Afghanistan was operations were on, enduring freedom, and at the same time they required all these Jacobabad, Noor Khan.
Afghanistan was a little
Pasni.
different. Afghanistan was a little different in the depth of what they were doing and in the context of what they were doing.
More than 1 lakh soldiers.
I think their plan against Iran would always have been for a short and quick one. It wouldn't have been, based on the Pakistani support, but it could be one of the factors. It's just
future warfare. If we were to talk about future warfare and the way you're looking at it globally, America bombed Fordo, and nobody else in the world had the kind of weapons that are required, the GBU-57s on the B-2 bombers, to target something which is 90 meters deep. So that's why America was required. But you've seen what happened at Isfahan and what happened at Natanz and Bushehr and several other places. What is your impression? Future warfare, is that the way to take out any country's nuclear assets? Many say that we also targeted Pakistani nuclear assets, which Government of India has officially denied at all times. But
no, we didn't target their nuclear assets. That you can be sure. Whether this is the best way to target a nuclear setup in case you want to. It is not a full-fledged. They had not become a nuclear power. You must understand.
Iran is not a nuclear power, and Pakistan is a declared
if
nuclear power.
If there is some target like this, I think these are the kind of weapons, and this is the kind of plan required to be able to take out these kind of targets. Anything else would not work so efficiently. You have to have dedicated weapons and weapons that can penetrate this kind of concrete. If 90-meter depth is a huge penetration capability. So I do feel that if this is the kind of target, this kind of capability is required.
So there were some reports that seem to indicate that while India does not have the GBU-57, we're looking at modifying the Agni 5 for both conventional deep penetration and then exploding, and also destroying surface targets. Or do we also need the GBU-57 kind of bombs?
Even if I knew the answer, I won't answer it. But I only want to say that you should differentiate between classic ballistic missiles capability and conventional capability, and you need to have options in both.
You need to have both options.
You should. So whatever be a target, and what kind of weapons that you need to develop for the future. So there are, apart from very high precision, very long range, ability to penetrate, ability to target, underground bunkers. These are all issues that we need to sort out for our future weapons.
And air power remains very important, because Iran does not have air power, effective air power, but it has a very effective missile power. Now, in that gap that we also have right now, we need, if I remember correctly, we had once spoken of 42 squadrons is our wish list, 37 squadron, 37 and a half is our sanction strength. We are down to 31. God forbid we shouldn't go down lower. But are missiles a stopgap arrangement? Longer range missiles, precision strikes?
It's always a combination that is best suited. It's always a combination. And if you depend only on missiles, which Iran primarily was dependent on, its missiles as offensive capability, its air force was largely had huge maintenance issues, and primarily on surface-to-air missiles had their air defense and their radar network as their air defense capability. So they were primarily working on that, and you saw what happened. Okay, these kind of assets. So there has to be a comprehensive way of looking at how best to sort out your air defense. It has to be very highly networked, and you have to have all kind of capabilities and ability to protect it. And that comes with the combination. It cannot, if you just depend on missiles and surface-to-air missiles to sort out your offensive and defensive, it won't. You won't succeed.
So you need your fighter jets, and you need your eye in the sky, your AWACS.
Yes, you need those combat assets,
and you need low Earth orbiting satellites.
Absolutely, you need real-time intelligence. Your ISR has to be very strong. We need to go into a huge capability build-up in cyber and space. We need to secure our networks. We need to go towards quantum technology for secure networks, for ability to encrypt. We need to really step up our game in terms of how we are going to develop our own stealth fighters, how our unmanned stealth fighters are going to come up. So our unmanned fighters and with the ability to, and unmanned stealth aircraft is the future which we need to develop quickly. So a combination of this for the future, we need to really work.
But if we don't have our own fighter jet engines, even our Kaveri, I think, is at 75 kilonewton power, and we require 110, isn't it? What do we do? How do we move forward?
I myself think that the effort in Kaveri should have continued at a much higher pace, and we in the last 8-10 years we slowed down. I don't know why, but it is because you must remember, about 20 years plus have gone into Kaveri development. Yes. And every development gives you products and lessons. And today the engine that is going on to our first unmanned stealth, if you talk about, is the Kaveri dry engine.
Correct.
So there is already a product out of it. What is important now when you talk of stealth fighter aircraft. We don't have engines. So there's another program in the works in terms of joint development and getting that, 120-ton class, 115-ton plus at least. So that should happen. It's very important. And that technology is also important for the future unmanned stealth also. The current unmanned stealth would not give us everything. It has limitation in terms of, wherever it's the first design. We need to go towards supersonic stealth and have a aircraft of fifth generation stealth equivalent in unmanned category too. Okay, so this is the future.
Are you looking at a time frame?
We are already behind. I think we are already behind, and that's why I'm happy that the government has said private sector needs to step in the fifth generation aircraft. Similarly, a complete whole of nation approach for all our fighter production and all our unmanned aircraft production, including engines. It will give us results. So we really have to put all our industrial might behind it, and indigenously. That is important. Along with this, what is important is sensors and weapons. Weapons we have started to succeed hugely. BrahMos is one example. There are others. But sensors we need to do even more work. And our air-to-air needs to really step up. Astra 3, we should jump to that. We need to we need to review our plan.
250 kilometer plus.
Yeah, we need to review our plans. Our fighters also. Now Mark 1A is not good enough. We need to go for Mark 2 straight.
Correct.
Maybe the second order of Mark 1A, we should look towards changing to Mark 2. So we need to take steps for the future. And depend on our indigenous industry to do it. I think that's what we should do.
In the interim, when your squadron strength is going down, are we thinking of more Sukoy 30 MKIs, upgraded Sukoy 30 MKIs? Because there you have licensed production with BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles. Does that help fill in the gap, or that's not a stopgap arrangement? You'd rather have additional, 114 fighter jets, whatever they may be.
See, order for 12 Sukoy 30 is already through. I think HAL is already at it. The complete Sukoy fleet is being upgraded.
Correct.
So Sukoy, we have 250 plus. It will become 265 with this 12 order, I think. Roughly, may not be exact. What we need to do is, if we start ordering even Su-30s, firstly, you must remember what year technology it is. And by the time it produces, time frame is same. By then, Mark 2 will be out.
Correct.
So we need to expedite our new generation aircraft and tech. Mark 2s need to be expedited, and the time frames for stealth, that needs to change. AMCA needs to come much faster.
What can be done to bring AMCA faster? And is all of that happening?
Yeah, I think with this announcement now, with complete private sector involvement, I think things will change. And once you have the complete industrial might coming in, things will happen faster. So the efficiencies will improve, the cost, cutting would take place. I think overall we are heading towards it. We should get it right. And while we blame DPSUs for going slow or not producing on time or reliability issues, now it is the test of private sector that they need to come up to, they've always said that we need to be involved. The government has said, yes, come. So it is time for them to deliver. It is time for them to step in for AMCA or programs like this. I wish it happens for Mark II also. I would say Mark II private sector entry is a good step for them before they come to AMCA. But let's see how things move.
In the armed forces, you always wargame what could happen next. And do you foresee Pakistan wanting to avenge this defeat in Operation Sindoor, launching another terror attack, or then being better prepared for our response? Now its air bases will have better air defense systems. Have we shown our cards without that massive decisive victory?
Yeah, they will 100% want to do this. 100%. That is their psyche, and that is how they work. After Balakot, when we showed our cards that we will hit wherever you are, we don't mind going deep, they were much, much better prepared, and they put everything. And some of their acquisition that they did, especially from China, it was so fast and so this thing, because it's a military state there, and they do what they want. People don't have food to eat, but they buy all sorts of weapons. But that's how they are. This is what they would want to do for sure. And of course, all this gets factored in when we do our own planning.
Do you also foresee conflict with China?
I don't foresee a conventional conflict. I don't see any indicators towards that. But if anything, situation seems to be only improving. But I do see that China's collusion with Pakistan is very much there and is very much more serious than many think or many thought it would be. Okay, so I think that's what needs to be factored. And this is the game plan that we need to be aware of. It has both good and bad impact. The bad side is that the Pakistan gets something which is latest and we need to factor it in even against Pakistan. Otherwise, normally in our issues, we are concentrating on developing our capability with respect to China. So we know what equipment they are fielding. The good part is that we have already seen some of their equipment, and should it come to a shooting match with China, we would naturally be more prepared, more adept at it.
Is it true? There were some reports that seem to indicate that Chinese satellites were giving real-time intelligence to the Pakistanis on all our movement, including our fighter jets, our military movement, and the Chinese AWACS were also guiding the Pakistanis?
I have read these reports. I couldn't be sure, but for sure, the satellite picture and intelligence from China has been shared with Pakistan. Whether it was being done real time, I don't know. Okay, especially the AWACS, because AWACS interaction with combat fleets, it takes much more. It can't be just done overnight. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if any such thing is there, they would have provided that or planned for it much earlier. Satellite imagery, intelligence, you can be sure that they would have shared.
So many more questions that I have for you, and especially in Tibet, our relationship is improving. But if we are able to take out multiple air bases in Pakistan quickly and simultaneously, we can do the same. Should the balloon go up even in Tibet?
Yeah, why not? The kind of defenses that they have in place is similar to what they have given to Pakistan, and some of their missile systems are better. Some networks are better. Of course, they have better air-to-ground weapons too in their arsenal. But given all the factors that there are, and given that some advantages that we have compared to them, in Tibet, should something happen, we will be up to it. We will not lose a conflict in Tibet.
And that is clear that Pakistan has now realized that post-Operation Sindoor, it cannot afford to mess around with the Indian Armed Forces. Is that your impression?
Yes, very much so. It should have gone very clearly into their head, and should they make a mistake again, the consequences will be much harsher. So very clearly, I think Operation Sindoor will have its significant effect as we go forward.
Sir, for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast on Chakravyuh. Many thanks. This truly is a Chakravyuh, and I, for one, think that we're not Abhimanyu, we are Arjun. We know how to come out on the other side and on tops. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So I hope you like this podcast, my conversation with Air Chief Marshal Bhadauria, and for many such conversations on matters military, strategic and international affairs, do like and subscribe to the India Today podcasts. Many thanks.